Welcome audience once again. Thanks for joining Cretum Advisory webinar series on the emerging theme Impetus for Investment in India. Our theme is in line with the vision of our Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi ji, vision to create Atmanirbhar Bharat. I'm your host for today, Kapil Mahani, CEO and co-founder of Cretum Advisory, which is a multidisciplinary firm. In this webinar, we are capturing the views of industry leaders, international partners, ambassadors, bureaucrats, and policy experts on the emerging theme, investment in India, coupled with Make in India. Till now, we have with us representative from Invest India team, which is a non-profitable organization, wherein we discuss the role of Invest India in bringing investment into India. And then last week, Mr. Vijay Goyal from London came for the interview, who was the past advisor to Deputy PM of United Kingdom. We understood from him insights about UK and Europe business houses with regard to perception and strategy for investment in India. Now, considering UAE is one of the top contributor to FDI into India, today we have with us Mr. Zayd from Crowe UAE. Thank you, Mr. Zayd, for coming to Cretum Advisory exclusive interview.
Thank you, Kapil, for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor.
Thanks. So, just to give background of Mr. Zayd is an international legend partner of Crowe UAE, a key economic center of Crowe Global. He is also a fellow member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales, ICAEW. He is also a committee member of Tourism and Hospitality Special Interest Group of ICAEW. He is also a committee member of International Auditing and Accounting Committee, Crowe. Apart from that, Mr. Zayd is also handling queries for the investment in India as being part of International Legend objective. Thank you, Mr. Zayd, once again. I would like you to introduce yourself to the audience to give a glimpse about your achievements and your journey till now, and specific focus on investment in India.
Thank you, Kapil. Thank you very much. Thank you, friends, for investing your time with us. Of course, India is very close to my heart. I'm originally from India, so I was born in the UK, but my parents, our family, they are from Gujarat, specifically a small coastal town called Valsad. So very much, I am very close to India, and having worked in the UK as a practicing accountant, I saw that India tries and works very hard to maintain the strong professional relationship with all countries. So when I moved to Dubai in 2005, I found that our relationship with India was getting stronger and stronger. And of course, India today is one of the leading trading partners in both non-oil as well as in certain oil product categories with the UAE. And so it's my pleasure because at Crowe, we are helping investors at both ends. Those investors who are looking to attract companies from the UAE to India, and at the same time, companies in India who want to use Dubai and the UAE as their global platform. So a lot of Indian companies are now looking to go global, and Dubai is the right hub for them. So really the movement of trade between the two countries is very, very dynamic. And so I'm very happy when the good team at Cretum, and specifically my good friend Kapil, invited me to have this opportunity to share the knowledge. And we have gone through some of the questions we'll be going through with you. They are really fantastic, and they really show how India is ready, and more so how the people of India are ready to welcome the investors with open arms. Over to you, Kapil.
Thank you, Mr. Zayed, for the nice words and for your brief introduction about. So let's start the session wherein we'll be asking you the question specifically with regard to our theme on impetus
Yes.
for investment in India.
Yes.
So our first question to you, Mr. Zayed, is that recently the Abu Dhabi Sovereign Fund, Mubadal Investment, has announced the investment of 1.2 billion in Geo platform. Since it is one of the biggest deal which happened during the COVID times. So what are the kind of similar sectors wherein investment is expected from the Gulf region into India?
Okay. So, friends, the investment into India from Gulf countries is not new. We all know from hundreds of years and many centuries, trade has always been at the forefront. But of course, as time progresses, what we trade in tends to change. So to answer my friend Kapil's question, that what similar or what sectors are Gulf investors looking for? So there is no doubt the sector is technology. And very much so. Why? During COVID, there is a more urgency is because digital transformation has happened and everybody today I'm here. Normally I will travel to India, I will stay at a nice hotel and we will have a nice event where a few hundred of you will join. Today that is all moved online and this is the thing what is driving the investment. I was speaking to one of our clients, they have specifically set up a fund to invest in emerging countries like India and the neighboring subcontinent countries, and specifically looking at emerging industries. Of course, apart from technology, one of the big investment going on is in food security. So COVID as well as other pandemic teach us that ultimately it is the food and sustenance which the person need. So there is a lot of investment going on from Gulf countries into food security, which means what? Which means that back end things like rice, you will have a certain kind of dairy products, etc., that can be processed, pulses, all sorts of things, processing of different types of food items, and these are all then exported here. The Gulf is very near. As you know, that sometime traveling within Gulf country takes longer than going to India. So it's not that India is very far away. It's very nearby. Even the livestock is exported here. That means that in a week or so of sailing, the livestock can be here and you have fresh milk and all the produce that you need. So these are the two major sectors, I would say, at the top end, driving the investment. And within that, there are many things. Of course, one of the key things that people like to invest in is people. And India has a large young population. They all speak English. Today's event is in English. We can do it equally in Hindi or Gujarati, but it's just that this is a common platform we are using, and that is attracting the investors. I hope that question is answered well, Kapil.
Yes, definitely. So in summarize, even nowadays, I say that statement to everyone, being me very optimistic towards everything, and specifically when it comes to COVID. So we are saying that in this time we can meet or we can discuss with anyone around the world, and world has become so small.
Exactly. And what has changed, I will say, is not that this technology is new. Today we are on
Yes.
YouTube or Zoom. This
Yes.
is not a new technology,
Yes.
but the acceptance of technology has changed. I would
Yes.
say that also, and that is really giving people confidence. See,
Yes.
back office operations is nothing new for India. India has
Yes.
been doing back office operations
Yes.
since decades.
Yes.
Why is it accelerating now? Because people are more keen. They are
Yes.
more keen to work with the Indian companies, and the Indian companies likewise are keen to work.
Yes.
Um, I do not know of a major online company which does not have a strong presence in India. Not just a presence, a strong presence. You can look at Amazon India. I think it's probably one of the largest retailers there. You can pretty much buy anything in a convenience.
And as
So
you
these, sorry. Carry on.
So as you touched upon the technology, in fact, one of our associate partner, which is has developed one of the Asia's first technology platform of investment and valuation through technology by the name of fundtq.com. So that's one
Okay.
of the, because everyone is looking for the technology, and this time we have launched this technology through one of our associate fundtq.com.
Hmm.
So now coming to the second question.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Zayed, you being international agent partner of Crowe,
Hmm.
and I'm sure that you must be receiving queries with regard from your client
Hmm. Hmm.
or your from your network firms with regard to
Yes.
investment in India. When it comes of investment, it can be into the sectors or business model like contract manufacturing, JVs, setting up shared service. So I wanted to understand your thought process and what are the kind of queries. And also in continuation to that, is there any discussion on the card wherein international clients are planning to shift out their manufacturing plant from China or European region to India? Now, over to you, sir.
Thank you. So I will answer this question in series of parts. The first one is in terms of how the investments are structured. And I think Kapil raised three very good examples. The first being the contract manufacturing, then being the JV, and then also shared sectors in the service industry. I will touch upon each of them because each three is unique and each of them will give you a
Yes,
different
yes,
idea. So see, contract manufacturing again is and none of these are new. So when we talk about these things, don't think that this is something of today. It's already going on.
yes,
So
yes,
contract manufacturing, what's happening is that they will make a agreement to manufacture the item of a particular brand with another manufacturer. Now, typically, you may see that in clothing, where somebody is manufacturing for one brand of shirts, and they also get a contract manufacturer to manufacture for a US brand or a UK brand. So that way it's there. Then the JV, of course, that also is very common, where we have all not only heard, but we have all always sat on a Hero Honda, and a Hero Honda or a Suzuki Maruti was the iconic ones we recognize from all our childhood about successful joint venture.
yes,
So, and of course, in terms of shared service centers, this is the new thing that's growing very exponentially, where companies in, let's say, Europe or anywhere in the Middle East or Africa don't want to replicate that whole thing again. Even in India, they would prefer that, okay, they would rather share that service center, like a call center is a good example, that somebody who has a call center set up for bank A, they can offer that same service to Bank B. Bank B may or may not wish to have that bandwidth to set up their own. So shared service centers are common and they are increasing. Now, with regards to moving from China, moving from Europe to India, this is part of globalization and it's very normal. I was speaking to a client this morning. They are an Indian manufacturer and they are looking to expand out of India also. So they have looked into Vietnam. So Vietnam is one of the fast growing countries,
yes,
and
yes,
one of the reason is, you will not believe, is Vietnamese labor is cheaper than some of the Chinese labor.
yes,
So, of course, cost is not the only thing. It can be access to the market. It can be many things. It can be
yes,
scale. So many factors go to play. So when they move the manufacturing plant, let's say from China to India, so India, one of the reasons driving it is the local demand. And local demand always is best fulfilled where you have the resource to locally produce it.
Yes.
So that is what is driving. Now, for example, lot of the um, oil that is imported to India or the products are often processed here or in Saudi or in Kuwait or wherever. So although it can be cheaper in India, but sometimes some industries are better suited to some countries.
Yes.
So, and that is what is driving the shift from some of the manufacturers that are manufacturing in China to maybe set up the plant in India because the Indian demand is growing. It's simple. It's simple. Many you have seen in many of the high-end cars. Earlier, it would be all imported. Now, fewer and fewer of these cars are being imported. Most of them are being either assembled or manufactured in India. Why? Because they have huge demand local.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So that I think it sort of sums up into my answer to set up the final part of this question, which is that what kind of queries are coming to Crowe members as well as us regarding the investment in India and what sectors. So there are three main queries that come up.
Yes.
First query is on the taxation. So what are the taxation rules? What are the benefits government are offering to set up in particular state? And Shri Narendra Modi ji has set up very nicely back in days. That I'm talking before his PM days, his CM days
Yes.
in Gujarat near my hometown. And
Yes.
I can say that because I know it. In Vapi, it's called the industrial district.
Yes.
And they give really, really favorable pricing to acquire the land. And my cousins also have acquired good pieces of land at a very reasonable rate and set up the good industry. And
Yes.
that is there. So that is one type of legislation that is helping. What is the taxation system? It's favorable towards employment, which every country is favorable to anything that creates employment in their country. It can be USA, it can be UAE, and of course India, even China. So no regard to any doubt on that. And the third and final most important is what sort of opportunities is there in that market. And this is the key question people ask. Now, India being very open economy and the consumer also very, very savvy.
Yes.
So you can find that, I mean, if you will compare some of you like 20 years back or 25 years back, just compare the amount of soft drinks. So we only knew 3-4 brands like Socio, Limca, and Thumbs Up.
Yes.
And that was it. Or chips, you would have 2-3 kinds. Now today you cannot keep up. You cannot keep up.
Very
so
right.
these are the type of queries that are coming is around what drives these, the engine. The engine is what is driving, and these three main things are driving.
Very well said. And in fact, just to summarize, there are certain incentives which each and every state is providing rather than only one state. Because under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister of India, they have created a peer pressure among each state to give certain incentives for various companies which are coming to India or within India if someone is looking for investment in any other sector and state. Like Haryana, if I talk about, all the automobile companies are there in terms of that. When we talk about Uttar Pradesh, all the electronic sector, all the mobile manufacturing companies are being set up, and wherein so much of incentives are being given, either from the state as well as from the center. So there are certain industry-specific areas, there are certain bond-specific, and India is adopting all the international practices of special economic zones, free trade zones, so that in line with what internationally is acceptable and advisable by the companies.
Hmm.
So there are good. So the third question which we have from our audience is, given India is positioned as the third largest startup economy across the globe. So what are the expectations from the startup in India? Since investors, are the investors looking for funding the startup? And if yes, then which sectors are they focused on? You mentioned although about automation, you mentioned about. So is the only automation is the prime or some other sector? Is UAE giving any benefit to the startup ecosystem if someone has established a startup in India and wants to expand or put into UAE? So these are the more questions from the startup side we wanted to know from you.
Okay, thank you, friends. I think that one question is four questions, but
Yes.
I will answer them in parts. And I always find that breaking things down into a flow helps the understanding as well as the conversation. So yes, basically, what are investors looking for in terms of startups, and that's really setting the expectations. And again, this one, in my opinion, is driven by two key factors. And
Yes.
one of the very obvious one everybody knows is returns. So you invest in a startup, it will grow quickly, the capital gain will be there, dividends and all. That's it. The more important thing these days investors are looking for is transparency. Is transparency and in terms of their own reporting, because there's a lot more social awareness. People want to know, I'm investing in this startup. Is it eco-friendly? Is what they are doing, is it ethical? So these sort of questions are what are coming out from investors, which you never heard. Earlier, the investor means tell me a profit, tell me capitals. That's it. Now there is a second element of a whole kind of transparency on ethics, on independence, on integrity, and they are looking for that. So that is what they are looking for in terms of the expectation. In terms of funding the startup, it will, of course, now we can, because we already in the earlier question, in question one, defined the two industries, which was IT and food security.
Yes.
There we can now start focusing on the sectors. So if I talk about food security, one is around the first step, which is the farming. So farming output, we see and we hear sometimes sad story. The whole crop was spoiled and the farmer was in real difficulty, or recently some chicken farms were infected, or the mango
Yes.
season was very bad. So what they are looking is in terms of this management, as to if we invest into a farm, if we invest here or there, what sort of security is there for the output? Because ultimately this is it has to be a crop that's coming out. Of course, farming is a direct hand of God, and it's all natural depending on the rain and soil, like that. So, and that's why this is something they are looking for. But it moves to the second more important step of they are looking to invest in food processing and packaging.
Yes.
So
Yes.
India has like you can take so many things, like right from papad to pickles to dairy products to anything you consume. It is processed and it's given to you. Sugar is a big thing that comes as well, and so all these items are there. So then these are the things that are much more important. So these in the food, it's pretty much the last thing which is important in food is distribution. If you see that more of the companies that have been successful in food is being in the end distribution. So you
Yes.
have things like Reliance Smart and Reliance Fresh, and all these people are coming. What are they doing? They are bringing the things that normally you would walk around a market and भैया आप मुझे सब्जी दे दो and आप मुझे दूध दे दो. It's all now packaged in a packaged in a nice way in one supermarket. So this is what something they are keen to interest in, is how to go into the metro cities and work with the startup to get some niche products to the market. And niche is important. Like in India, the big thing now is Ayurvedic products. So whether you are
Yes.
using a shampoo or a shaving cream or a shower gel, people like to use the Ayurvedic products. So there's a
Yes.
huge investment going on there. Of course, in the IT side, it's similar sort of thing that people want to invest in a few startups which are around training. See, maybe Kapil and I, we can speak anything, but maybe we are not the right skills to take up a job in a call center. So
Yes.
skill development startup is the important thing. Kapil, I will join you for a virtual cup of tea.
Definitely.
So what happens is that these sort of things are really driving training as well as monitoring. So we earlier spoke about the shared service sectors. So
Yes.
managing these sectors of shared services is also something that people like to invest in because it's an avenue to grow into this area.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah. And finally, what sector they are looking for, it also links into the earlier question. And I must comment Kapil's question. They are flowing so nicely. It's almost like he should do script writing for movies also. But that's the next level.
Definitely.
Is thank you, sir. Is around the when you have the shared service, you also need to ensure the end-to-end delivery and the marketing of that. So there is a lot of
Yes.
interest from Gulf investors to say, okay, we are an investment company, we have a bottling plant, we have a, let's say, a dairy farm, we have a some anything like, let's say, even non-oil and gas, and they
Okay.
like to have some outfit of it back-ended to India, supported to India, and this is where they are interested to invest. So, today's discussion is more around bringing the businesses together,
Yes.
and
Yes.
of course we we also will talk in the next question, but I don't want to give that away yet. Is about what happens about companies who just want to invest. So, because all these first three have been about investing into something that's already there or already
Yes.
being started up, or
Yes.
you are a startup and you are attracting. So there is also a huge industry waiting for investment. And again, I feel India is the right country where this can flourish
Yes.
because of the talent pool and because of
Yes.
the uh, the indigenous market. So, so that way it's there. So that is what covers the sector focus. The last was, as Kapil mentioned, is what is UAE giving to the ecosystem startup in India who wants to expand the foot in UAE. So this is perhaps one of the most important, and I had a good conversation with His Excellency Mr. Abdullah Al Saleh, who is part of the ministry who is looking after the investment into UAE. So
Okay.
what they have done is that they have been what it is they are doing is they have been really focused on bringing this startup, ensuring they have world-class infrastructure. Then they also that they have the right safe jurisdiction in which they can operate. The UAE also is providing 100% foreign ownership. So these are things. But what is the most important thing that UAE offers is the feeling of home. And whether you are from the UK, you are from China, you are from India, people feel very at home in UAE.
Yes.
There will be, let's say, a temple or a mosque or a church which is particular even to your sect.
Yes.
Then you will have the festival. You could celebrate Diwali, Eid, or Christmas, and you will celebrate it with happiness
Yes.
and comfort.
Yes.
And this, I think, is the number one thing that drives to UAE. And in fact, In fact, I was speaking to one very senior, very successful, like you can say billionaire Indian businessman who came here in 60s.
Okay.
And so I asked him that when you came here, you had the whole Middle East. What landed up here in Dubai?
Yes.
And he said that actually, I was very young then, and my children were very, very small. And my wife said, कि भाई अगर चलो इंडिया के बाहर लेके जा रहे हो, you are taking us outside India, take us somewhere where there is our community people and there is a school teaching the Indian. So at that time, there was a small that later became the Indian high school here, and ruler here gifted the land, and it's a big setup now. But from that time, from 60s and 70s, they had planned that the Indians here were welcome. And of course, today the landscape is very different.
Yes.
But that ethos still remains. So I think one of the most important benefit today, we can do business anywhere. We can, but why more and more people tend to call UAE home is because of this strong, very strong connection that people feel, and they feel welcome.
Yes.
So I think that gives this one very long question with 3-4 answers, but that sort of sums it up.
So we thought that we'll cover from you everything which is evolving around startup in a very shorter time.
No, it's important. Why? Startups are the lifeblood of economy. I was just reading an IMF report, and they stress the importance, because at any one point in time, more than 50% of your business and up till 60 to 90% of the business of an economy is driven by the SME and the startup. So this is what exactly things happen, and this is why it's very important that startup are supported here. And here in UAE, we have very much a lot of infrastructure being developed and revolved around the SMEs.
Great. So since when we were speaking to every country nowadays has developed one fund specifically for the startups. Even the visa regulations are so much relaxed for startups who want to come.
Yes.
Every country wants unicorn to be developed by that country. Since there are so much of unicorns which has been made from India, and recently, and there are young entrepreneurs. If I have to talk about Oyo, founding person Ritesh Agarwal is the youngest entrepreneur who is one of the unicorn came from India.
Yes, definitely. And recently we had 2 very successful startups. Homegrown in UAE that were acquired by international brand. One was Cretum that was acquired by Uber, and one was Souk.com, which was acquired by Amazon. So like that, the landscape is very ripe for Indian startups who wish to explore the other countries.
Okay, great. So now coming to, since you are very close to all the UAE people, you are living so long. So what should UAE investors excited about India investment?
Thank you. I think that for the first top line answer is that there are many things, many things there for them to be excited about. And I would say that there are at least 4 key things that UAE investors are excited about, and that is, one is always the rate of return. So rate of return in dynamic country like India is good. So most of the UAE investors are cash rich. And leveraging is an important part of it. They are leveraged. I'm not saying they are not leveraged, but they are cash rich and they are ready to hence have a risk appetite. And India tends to be like a natural selection. There are other natural selections also, like UK. So you will find most Gulf investors have at least one house in the UK.
Yes.
So what has been driving the interest of Indian investment is also healthcare. So what happens is that back in the day, people used to travel, and even today, but back in the day more, but now today also, for healthcare to India. So let's
Yes.
say they go to Bangalore or they go to Mumbai, and they check themselves into a nice five-star hotel, and then they get all the treatment in the Hinduja hospital and whatever. So while they are there, people inclined, they enjoy the city, they like it. So they are inclined, okay, I'm also doing, let's say, I'm selling tires here. So what is the
Okay.
next step? Which brands from India I can import here? What, it becomes like that.
I got it.
People go for
I got it.
holiday. Of course, a lot of people have roots. Uh, they may have been expatriate like us. Parents were immigrant to the
I got
UK,
it.
then find ourselves in UAE, but the roots are
So in
there.
summarize, if I talk about from the financial standpoint, so the one of the major kind of lucrative is the return on the investment compared to the Dubai region because of always having adequate capital which can be utilized to generate more return. So
Exactly.
since we talked about investment, we talked about sectors. You know that with this COVID, the economy has slowed down. So, do you feel
Yes.
that with this recent pandemic,
Hmm.
uh, investment into any sector or specifically investment into India will reduce because everyone wants to save cash for any for their business as well as for any kind of arrangement?
See, there's always a few spectrums to these things. So there are one set of sector who may say, well, right now I don't want to invest, I want to hold on to my cash, etc. But at the same time, they also have to look at the other side, which a lot of investors are doing is now is the time to invest.
Yes,
When the
yes,
valuations are down, or let's say when
yes.
the opportunities are higher, now is the time to invest.
You
So
very
we
well.
are seeing, at least I am seeing in my clients, the investment is going up. I cannot
Yes,
say that the whole world can act on one way because we are all human. We all have different thoughts, but definitely there will be a balanced approach. But there is a opportunity, and of course there is the sad pandemic has had many impact on all things. So of course investment also is impacted. It's not fair to say investment is unchanged when people are in so much other hardship, but there's the opportunity. These create the opportunity. If we look at the history of pandemics, some of the most successful or innovative inventions were made during
yes,
pandemics, made during wars,
you are
like
right.
Bluetooth,
Yes.
telephone, like sticky notes, etc. So who knows what we'll be seeing in next 6 to 12 months.
Definitely, and the one point which you touched upon, which is very much nowadays, which I'm listening for all the people like you, that the investors are actually looking up for investment because of the valuation has gone down, and also to invest on those companies which are loss-making companies, and they want to start certain operations in India. So it will be more like a plug-and-play operations to acquire that company and to increase the infrastructure or the technology for that company and to expand them. But rather than starting from day one from the initial operations, it's better to acquire a company which is loss-making and to invest in India with them. So
Yeah.
I think everything we covered. The only thing, lastly, which I want to ask from you is, since you know that Honorable PM of India is creating opportunities for investment in India by providing incentives or subsidy to various sectors, electronic
Ah.
sector, food processing, you touched upon. He has proposed to offer land twice the Luxembourg size to firms which are leaving China.
Hmm.
So, in consideration to this,
Hmm.
what are the expectations from Indian government to attract investment into India when we have to speak from your platform, the Crowe platform?
Sure. Sure. Thank you. No, I think that I answered this question again in two parts because the expectations are two. One expectation is around, and what you rightly just pointed out is around the opportunity of a reduced valuation. So right now is the maybe right time to invest in India because be it electronic sector and food processing is what we talked about first up
Yes,
there.
yes.
But
You very well talked about
is
that.
yeah, is one thing important expectation is around cash management. So, and you rightly said that right now some companies might be in loss and they're good to invest. So, loss making is never an issue. See, loss is not a problem. It's not something we can ever predict, profit or
Yes,
loss. But
yes,
something we can control, something we can be mindful is about cash flow. And cash flow is what is the critical part. So as long as a company, although could be in loss, is not the bigger concern, is the cash flow. You might say, Zaid, well, isn't that the same thing, cash and profit? No, not at all. Cash and profit, although yes, are both financial figures in that they are same, but they are like an apple and an orange. And cash is always, we have heard the saying, cash is king. So that comes down to the expectation that why is cash important? Because a government, a country, any country, UAE, India, they are all working on the economy. And the economy, the expectation is that will generate jobs and will generate revenue for the government. The revenue can be in terms of
yes,
taxation, can be in terms of government fees, can be in terms of even investments in public-private joint ventures. But the important thing is how we are working and reporting on this and what benefit can the government have. Because today that benefit means there will be a desk for your child to go to school on, there will be a bus for you to ride on, and there will be a road for you to drive on. And
yes,
maybe if you're that successful, airport for your jet to land.
yes,
So
definitely.
all area of life need the government support. It's not that the person who is in the bus only he need the government support and the person in the private jet no. It's all an ecosystem. So the government
Definitely.
expectation is that we should be honest and truthful. We should add value. We should add value in what we do, and we should deliver something that is of credible quality. If we say this rice is basmati, when we open the packet, it should be basmati. When we say this mobile battery is this long, it should be that. Or whichever it is, the government expect you to be truthful and honest. Because no matter what anybody says or anything, it's more expensive for government to go after anything that has gone wrong. They expect that we work properly in a good
Yes,
way, in a hard way, and then the country is for us. We are the country, and the country is for us.
definitely. Thank you, Mr. Zayed, for the so insightful answers to all the queries, or I'll say the questions which Indian investors or the international investors, since this is the international interview wherein all the participants, all the audience are not only from India or from Dubai, but from European or from London, and we can see that there are some from even US as well. So your interview will surely give insights to everyone who are looking for investment in India, and also since Crowe is an international accounting firm, and your role as an international agent partner will surely help to connect with them and with Cretum if any way. That's thank you, Mr. Zayed. Thank you once again for this session, and it's pleasure to see you always.
Thank you. And in my closing remarks, I will just like to, of course, thank you, Kapil and Cretum Advisory team. And one of the question I always get asked because I've done a number of webinar and online is what will happen post-pandemic? If the borders are closed, are people not going to do global business? Do we just invest in our country? Do we just not do anything? No. It will in fact open up a new
Yes.
world, but it will be different from the old one.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that is the opportunity and the thought I leave with you, all my listeners, with you, Kapil, and with myself. What tomorrow are we going to do different from today?
Yes. This is something which I am also advising as well as understanding and adopting. With this model only, we are working on this theme so that we need to push more ourselves. We need to do something better. We need to do something different rather than the old school of thought of doing only the accounting and advisory. We have to go beyond that level and give value to the client, give something additional apart from the general accounting and advisory.
Definitely, you know, I learned this, and this probably I'll keep it my last comment, is from a very senior and we are very senior and seasoned professional. And he said, he asked me a question. He said, Zayd, what do you do? I said, I do advisory, I do audit. And he said, okay. And then I said, what do you do? He says, I do anything my clients ask me. And that is what we should be. We should be ready to
Yes,
help in whatever, of course, professional boundary are there,
yes,
cultural boundary, ethical boundary, I'm not contesting. But whatever the client is ready, we should be ready for that.
yes. That is very important.
Thank you,
And with
sir.
the best business practices.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.